Today we're going to talk about the top 4 hand stitches that you need to know. And these are super easy. So you can make your own little hand stitch card that is a record of these to remember. I'm going to walk you through them. So there's a couple bonuses in this video, and that's going to be that you're also going to see me make knots, super fast knots, that is. And you're also gonna see me do a tailor's tack. I want to throw that in because that's so helpful. All right, so let's get in here. The knot. How is everyone doing today? Don't forget, I mostly go live right now through the end of the year, hopefully, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But next week, I'm going to be out of state. So I won't be doing this next week. I'll miss you guys, but I'll still be active in the comments if you have any questions. All right. So there's the knot. But let's talk about the top 4 hand stitches you need to know and that they're very easy. The first one is the easiest of all, okay? And then we'll work our way up. I'm gonna start by putting this knot through here. And the best way to lock your knot is to go back like this, okay? And stitch right through that loop. See that? Okay. Stitch right through that loop, and it is so locked right now. So then we're going to go right back to the top side, okay, and get started. The beauty of the running stitch is if you choose a longer needle, you can get more stitches in, so it can be very efficient. And then the other thing is you can also do curves with them, which a lot of people are unaware of. A lot of people think that running stitches only go straight, but you can do curves. Let me know in the chat if the audio is okay, if everything is working right, okay? Because I don't know unless you tell me. Here we go. I'm going to go down, and we typically really kind of travel on the back side and do a small little bit that's up for air, okay? You want your goal over time to be to make relatively even stitches. I know this is simple, guys, but I wanted to start with the most basic and work our way up. All right, so here we go. We've got these, and this will make a nice straight stitch. See that? And we've got just small stitches up top. They can even be smaller than that. You can actually, if you want to get really technical with it and use a very thin needle, you can even just go halfway through satin so that it's almost like a blind stitch. Here's the underside. You can see how those are much larger stitches than the top side. Okay, so let me show you the curve and how we do it. So again, small stitches up top, larger stitches up bottom. And if you want to curve faster, you're going to make your stitch length even smaller. But basically, you're just going to go ahead and stitch where you want to go. And just ignore what the fabric is doing here. Don't pay attention to that at all. It's not in charge. We're just going to keep going wherever we want to go. Okay. It looks kind of messy, but watch this. We made a curve. So a running stitch does not have to be straight. You can even make a little bubble like that. Sometimes you see that in designer clothes. You'll see that kind of texture. So that is your running stitch. I think it's very important for everyone to know that. Very easy. I'm going to cut this off, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this back through so that it's mostly straight, so that in the end when we have our stitch card, it kind of looks neat and pretty, okay? All right, so there's the running stitch. That's stitch number 1. You guys hold me to it. I said 4 stitches. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if you're having any type of audio issues. Victoria is asking, where do I buy my hand sewing needles? What I do is I just kind of, a couple times a year, I just go hog wild and buy all kinds of needles. I know that sounds crazy, but I just buy a mixture. My favorite needle is a size smaller than this, and it's the size 1. It's maybe only this long, but I do love these long needles so much. If any of you ever wonder about my sewing supplies and what I'm using, I have links to them. Go to bridalsewing.com, and there's a page that is all my sewing supplies with links. Do remember that stores and sellers change on Amazon, so I'm basically just kind of giving you the information to search up for yourself. All right, so the next one that is so helpful is called the ladder stitch. I do this all the time. All right, so same thing. I'm going to do my knot, bring it through, and we need to lock that knot again. Okay, so I'm going to put it right through that. See that? Make sure you can see it. Then we're going to go back on the correct side here. This is the way the ladder stitch goes. It's almost like an invisible stitch that can really size down. The way that we use this most often is for garment sewing, for alterations, is going to be almost like a dart, okay? So you're going to like almost draw a V with your stitches. You're going to go across. This is where it got the name of the ladder stitch. Looks like a ladder. Okay, so the invisible side is the one with the rungs of the ladder showing. Okay, the side that is visible, the inside is going to be what's on the back side. Those are the poles going up the sides of the ladder. You want the rungs of the ladder on top. And we're increasing the width because I'm showing you how to make a dart with this. But you can also do them equidistant. Just do 2 parallel lines, and that'll do a ladder stitch for you as well. I just wanted to show you the more useful stitch pattern and its application. All right, so this is where the magic happens. We're just going to give a slow tug, and look at that. Pulls it right together, and then you want to adjust the tension of your fabric. I usually go like this, make sure it's laying together well. Okay, come over here, and I like to do a knot that goes through both layers of fabric. All right, and I always knot at least 3 times. All right, and then we do this thing we call hide the tail. Always want to hide the tail. So we've got that. Let's trim that up, and then I'll show you what it's going to look like. I'm using upholstery thread, by the way. It's so easy to see, isn't it? All right, there's our ladder stitch or our dart. And let me press that for you real quick so you can see what that's going to look like. Let me know if you have any questions. Now, this would typically terminate like on the edge of the top of a dress or something. So it would be kind of like this, and you would be achieving a curve with this. So that's the ladder stitch, super handy. All right, so that's 2 of our 4 hand stitches that we really need to know that are super easy. This next one is called understitching, and I hear it called top stitching all the time on the internet. Even professional sewists will say, oh, I gotta do the top stitching. And this is actually called understitching, where the way that understitching works is, let's say this is the top of a bodice of a dress, okay? And you put the dress on, and it's got this fluffy, almost rolly edge to it. Doesn't have a very crisp look at all. That's because it needs understitching. So we can pretend like this is the outer layer or the shell, and this is the lining, and this is that top edge. And what we want to do is just offset it just ever so slightly. And our stitch is going to go through the lining plus the seam allowance. The butts of these two fabrics, the little ends that are in here, that's called seam allowance. Okay, so we're going to roll it, offset it just a little bit, and then we're going to stitch where we grab the lining plus these 2 layers of seam allowance, and we're going to leave that outer side alone, okay? And let me show you what that's going to look like. It's going to be so neat. It's going to keep your garment from rolling. And most importantly, I do have a video coming up about the idea of homemade clothes or homemade hand sewing. You've all been there, right? There's 2 different ways you can be asked if your clothes are homemade. One is like, they almost have a sneer and they're like, oh, did you make that? And it's like in a negative way. Then there's another way where somebody will say, oh, did you make that? And that's the way we want it said. Isn't that right? All right, so this is gonna keep people from saying it the wrong way and help them to say it the right way, because understitching is one of those things, again, I've got a video coming up, it's one of those things that really separates the home sewing crowd that is just learning from that professional look, okay? Lining side, the shell outer layer side, we're building on what we just learned, right? There's the knot, and we're gonna do a running stitch. And we're not gonna have much show on the top. Again, the longer your needle, the more stitches you can get in at once. So handy. I love a long needle, but I get it. It's intensely personal. Some people just like their short needles, and that's fine. Okay, so we're gonna go through here. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'm here for you. Whether you are a beginner sewist or a professional, I know some of you get offended by the word sewist. That's just my preferred term for myself right now in this season. Some years I'll, I always rotate through. Some years I say seamster. Some years I say seamstress. Personally, my favorite is sewist, and it's not a modern word. It's been around since the 1800s. I like it because it's a blend of sew plus artist. But really, you can call yourself whatever you want, and there's no need in getting upset if somebody else uses a term you don't like. But I like sewist, and then for my job, I like to say I'm a bridal sewing professional. That's my favorite. So there's the running stitch with small stitches on top, big stitches through the bottom. All right, so I'm going to knot this again. Always trying to knot things several times. Here we go. And we're going to snip. And of course, we need construction equipment beeping outside the window. All right, so I'm going to go press this. This is how I'm going to press it, just as we would want to wear it, okay? So I'm going to offset it and press it. All right, so that's our third stitch. So this would be the outside of the garment. This would be the inside. If you want to lose that imprint, just come back in and press over that part again. Looks nice. All right. So now it's got that nice crisp edge. See the difference? So much more professional, right? And that's going to keep that lining from rolling up. So this stitch is called your understitching, not your top stitching. All right, so we've got 3 stitches done out of the 4. So the last one that we need to do is going to be a running stitch, and we're going to gather it. So it's actually Like I said, building on those stitches we were learning before, you've got your running stitch, and we're gonna turn it into what's called a gather stitch just by pulling it a little bit differently. This is so useful. We use this at the end of our project, usually on almost every dress, really, when we need to take a neckline, maybe it's like a sweetheart or a V-shaped neckline, and it's just buckling away just a little bit. The curve isn't quite matching her bust curve. We're gonna come in and do this gather stitch, and it's gonna lock it in against her skin. I'm telling you, it elevates the look. It takes you from a gappy dress that looks like it wasn't tailored to a dress that looks custom to her. All right, so here's this knot. And then don't forget, after I show you this gather stitch, I've got my bonus that I'm gonna show you that is a lifesaver. Okay, so gather stitch, same start. You definitely wanna lock this because you're gonna put a little pressure on it. You're going to be pulling on this, okay? So let's go back through. And it's our running stitch. Gather stitch always does best the smaller the stitch, okay? So don't go crazy with having to cover a lot of ground real quick. Let's get this in here. Here we go. And you can do it to the point that it almost looks like a ruffle if you need a little ruffle, but that's not the goal usually when we're using a gather stitch for tailoring. It's normally just to put a little bit of a curve in it. All right, so here's our base stitch is the running stitch, and then we're just gonna ease it in just a little bit, okay? That's gonna give you that contour that you need. And I like to knot it just a shade more pulled than you think you want it, because when you knot it, it's always going to release just a little bit. So we want to account for that. So let's do our 3 knots, and then let's check this out on a curve and see how she looks. Let's say this is that bodice edge. Wow, she's curving. See how much that makes it so smooth when you curve it? She wants to curve now. So that's what the gather stitch does for you. Curve right in on that bust. Let's show you here. Curves right in. That looks lovely. And obviously that's not pressed. So the last thing I wanted to show you that's going to be so helpful to you, we do this all day long. It's not technically just a stitch, okay? We're going to do our knot. I'm going to show you a tailor's tack. And some people get very perplexed by this, but there's no need to be perplexed. We can do this for bustles. We can do this for attaching dress layers together. You can attach your waist lining to your to the waist lining of the outer layer. That's always really helpful. So I'm going to pin this down. It's going to be the easiest way probably. I like a nice shore situation here. This is just a little homemade ham that I have. I'm going to angle you down so you can see it a little bit better. All right, let's go like this. Bring you down. Perfect. And don't forget, drop your questions in there because as soon as I finish this, I'm going to answer your questions. I'll read and answer them. So we've got our knot locked in, and I'm going to make a loop like this. I'm going to not pull that stitch all the way through. And so you just grab the tail that's coming off the eye through that loop. See that? This can do a tailor's tack, crochet tack, swing tack. You hear it called all sorts of things. I think a tailor's tack is probably more accurate. And this is hard to do with a long needle. This is an easier thing to do with a shorter needle, but then you run your needle through the loop for the last one. And that's your tailor's tack. So a couple different things. You can either attach this to the other part of the garment that you want it loosely tacked yet floating. That's going to give you that professional look. Or you can bring it over here and tack it here if you need to make like a loop for a bustle or for a hook and loop. That's how that's going to work. All right, let me see your questions real quick, and then I'll let you go for the day. Barbara is saying, can you show the knot used when your thread changes on the sewing machine instead of threading all over again, instead of just pulling it through? Yes, Miss Jessel, we call that a tailor's tack. And Bettina is asking, what do you think about doing the understitching on the machine? Oh, I do that all the time. That's just fine. This topic is just the hand stitches. So I wanted to show how to do it by hand. Okay, so Barbara, basically what I do when I'm changing my thread on my machine to pull it through instead of having to rethread the whole machine, I literally just do your typical square knot. So I'll just take my, this is the ends of the new thread. This is the end that I cut off that's feeding into the machine. And I literally just, it's the square knot where you just do like this. Nothing fancy. Just that knot. And then I'm just careful when I pull it through to make sure that I don't pull it too hard or fast to undo it. Sometimes it does come undone, but that's all I do for that. It does save a lot of time though, not having to rethread your machine. You're absolutely right. And I think that's it for today. Thank you guys for showing up. I didn't want to give you too long of a video. I know Fridays are crazy. Have a wonderful weekend. And don't forget, I'm not doing the vertical live streams next week. I'm out of state. I'm really excited. I'm working an event, so I'll be out of state. But I'll see you guys back here in a couple weeks, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care, guys. Bye.